What makes the self-authentic self? Welcome to the School of Self-Worth Live. I'm Sam Osborne, the Self-Worth Guy. This is episode 116. Today we're talking about what makes the self-authentic self. Now, this is one of the most searched for questions on the internet regarding authentic self, and I want you to remember one thing from today's episode, and that is the authentic self is balance. I think when you are balanced, then you are going to show your authentic self. And I'm going to talk over here about three different types of views about the self. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is Eastern philosophy. Then I'm going to talk about some Western psychology ideas. And then I'm going to give you a blended view, one that I sort of think that it's my own view. So the first one is the Eastern philosophy of the self. So I'm here talking about Hinduism. I'm talking here about Buddhism, Taoism, and to some degree Confucianism. So the idea in the Eastern philosophies that really originated in the last couple of thousand years is that there is no self, and that the self, or the feeling that we have an individual consciousness, is an illusion, that the ego is an illusion. It's not real, and it's just something that happens in life. And many people have tried to overcome their ego through meditation, and it's very difficult. But the Eastern philosophies, they would say that the only thing that there is Brahman, or Atman, which is the consciousness of everything, or no consciousness. You could almost say that no consciousness is just nature, Mother Nature. It doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have an awareness in the sense that we have one as an individual self. And they also say that when you identify as having an individual self, that this is the cause of suffering. And so they say you have to kind of get over yourself, or the need for a self, and go and participate in the world joyfully, even in the face of suffering, which can be pretty hard if you consider what's happening in 2021 around the world. There's a lot of suffering, and it would be hard to participate in the world joyfully. But I think if we were to take some sort of, piece of wisdom from the Eastern ideas of the self, it is to, I think, have gratitude for everyday life, and not to jump to conclusions that everything is bad and always going to be. Perhaps that the things that appear bad right now will turn out to be good in the end. Now, I know that's really hard to be able to say that when you're in the thick of the suffering, but I think that's at least the Eastern ideas of the self, and how we should live our life based on having no self, no authentic self. Or the authentic self is one where you don't have one, and you just go about living life and you enjoy it fully, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially. But you have this kind of knowing that you don't have a self. And I've always had difficulty trying to roll with that idea, but it's at least one that we can contemplate on, give us some help to make sense of our lives. The next one is to talk about the Western ideas of the self. And depending on how far you go back, I'm going to talk about just really the 20th century versions of the self. And so you have Carl Jung's idea of the self having the higher self, and that this is a kind of part of our consciousness that is, something that we can grow into. They can grow out of our sort of selfish needs, and tap into something that is a kind of a universal self. It's really hard to talk about, but to find and to actualize who you are, I believe, is both satisfying for you, but also contributes to the world in a big way. And so you have ideas from Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, that once you've got your house taken care of, your food, your relationships, you've got some creativity in your life, maybe some recognition and prestige, that eventually the last phase of our needs is self-actualization, the reaching of our potential, and that is doing all of those things helps us to become our authentic self. Now I want to throw in a kind of blended view. This is kind of my own view of the self, or what the authentic self is. And I would have to reiterate the main point that balance, a state of balance, is the authentic self. So when you balance the opposites within yourself, positive and negative emotions, and you can see a wider perspective, and that both moderation, like doing a little bit of everything, a little bit of, what's the saying? Just a little bit of something every day is okay. Just moderation will bring about fulfillment and authenticity. I also believe that being authentic is an ongoing creative process. Being authentic also means that you see your good sides and your bad sides, and you accept them. You say, well, yeah, I'm human. I think that's a nice way of looking at what the authentic self is that you're going to have some rough days, you're going to have some great days, and that you need to be able to roll with them and say, yep, I accept that that's who I am, and I'm happy to participate in the world, even though there is some negative things in the world, positive things in the world, and both negative and positive within me. I think that's a nice way of living as the authentic self. And if you remember one thing from today's video, I want you to just remember that balance. I think a balanced perspective makes the self authentic. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I've got a free gift for you. It's called Crush Imposter Syndrome Forever, the starter kit for bulletproof confidence. And you can get it at the links above and below. And it's on your screen now, samosborn.com/starter kit. And I invite you to join the School of Self-Worth Facebook group. And that is the best place to get hold of me. So remember, balance is what makes the self authentic. Have a great day, everyone.